Well, good afternoon. This is Betty Meredith, President of the International Retirement Resource Center, and I'm happy to be your session host today for Protecting Your Clients from Financial Abuse with Bob Motterstock, CFP, CHFC, CLTC, an elder care expert, speaker, author, and facilitator, and president of Gift of Communication. Financial elder abuse is a growing problem, creating annual losses to families estimated to exceed $2.9 billion a year. As retiring boomers become part of this population, the problem is expected to increase dramatically. It's critical for financial advisors to be aware of recent legislation that will affect their ability to deal with this crisis and understand the steps they can take to help their clients avoid significant loss resulting from financial abuse. Bob Motterstock is an accomplished speaker, author, and sought-after authority on the financial concerns of baby boomers and their adult children. For over 35 years, Bob has helped families achieve a worry-free, comfortable retirement. He has inspired baby boomers and their adult children to give each other the gift of communication and preserve their legacy for future generations. In 1987, Bob qualified as a CFP and became a specialist in retirement income planning, long-term care planning, investment management, and legacy planning. Bob speaks to a wide range of audiences through workshops, trainings, meetings, and consultations, as well as doing presentations for organizations and corporations. You can read more about Bob and his work on his website and through his blog, giftofcommunication.com. So Bob, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here with us today, and I'll now turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Betty. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about an area that I think is extremely important for all of us to address. And I'd like to mention a few of the things that we'll be covering today. First, we're going to be talking about recent legislation that'll impact your ability to help your clients. There are two items of legislation that are going to affect you. Secondly, we'll talk about some of the areas where clients are susceptible to financial abuse. Why does that happen? Why are they susceptible? And how we can detect what happens and how it affects your clients. And lastly, steps that you can take to help your clients avoid financial abuse. So that's what we'll cover, and I think it'll be very helpful to you. The first thing I want to mention is there was a study done a few years ago by the MetLife Institute, and they determined that over $2.9 billion, that's with a B, dollars a year is lost by elders through financial exploitation. And that number is increasing because every day there are 10,000 of us baby boomers who are retiring, who are entering this pool of potential being exploited. And it's a very concerning situation that we have to face. And I'd like to talk a little bit about who's doing this, who's providing this exploitation. Well, you'll see that 51% of the exploitation is done from strangers. And I'll give you an example of some of the things that happen and some of the things that have happened to my own clients. There are people who call you and tell you you've won the lottery. And all you have to do is give them your financial information so they can put that money into your account. And that's one of the biggest problems. Another is home repair. Someone will come to your door and say, I was passing by, I noticed that your roof is in bad shape, that I can replace your roof in a very short period of time. Please write me out a check for $5,000 and I'll get started with the work. Another one that is particularly bad is what we call the grandparent scheme. Someone will call one of your elder clients and say, this is your grandson Sam, do you remember me? I'm down in Florida and I need some money. Unfortunately, I got in a bad situation and I'm in jail. I'm going to need your help to get out of jail. That one happens all the time. There are charity scams that occur, and one of the most prevalent today is scams related to Medicare. As you may know, those of us who are 65 or older have gotten new Medicare cards, and new Medicare cards have a more distinct number than just our Social Security number. Well, there may be people calling your clients and saying, did you receive your new Medicare card? And I just need a little bit of financial information to make sure that we have all your information correct in the database, and then ask specific financial questions. So these are some of the things that happen to people from strangers. And of course, There is another one that I've seen recently. The IRS calls you up on a pre-recorded line saying you're being investigated by the IRS. Please contact us immediately to avoid prosecution. Though those are the things that happen from strangers. But interestingly enough, that more than 30% of the exploitation that occurs comes from family members, friends, or neighbors. And one of the things that happens there is that someone who has the power of attorney, and the power of attorney is the ability to make financial decisions for you, when you give them that power, they have the ability to write checks, withdraw funds, change investments, and do any financial transactions that you have. Well, someone who has your power of attorney that you may have given that power can use it for their own purposes and withdraw money from your accounts and utilize that in any way they want. So that's often what happens. There are some family members who have joint bank accounts with our elder clients, and with a joint bank account, again, they can do anything that the other person can do within that account. And they abuse their joint account. Sometimes they'll steal checks, or sometimes they'll utilize an ATM machine to get funds from an elder. One of the very unfortunate things that happens is that if there's a family member who is a caregiver, they may threaten to abandon the elder if the elder doesn't do something or provide them with some funds or do something that they want them to do. And they threaten them with that type of work, and that's really terrible. Or they may refuse to obtain needed care for the person, because unless they get what they want and receive the funds that they need, they may refuse care. And unfortunately, in some cases, people have in-home providers who provide care that find ways to take advantage of the people who they're providing care for. So these are all situations that occur, and they're increasing in number. But why does it happen to people? Why does it happen to elders? Well, it's the old question is as Derringer said, that why do I rob banks? Dillinger rather. Why do I rob banks? Because that's where the money is. And with elders, more than 40% of our wealth in this country is in the hands of people over the age of 65. So naturally, they are a target for elder abuse. And we have an ongoing and increasing issue with mental capacity. The number of people age 85 and older is growing faster than any other group in the United States. This is the fastest growing demographic group in the country. Unfortunately, according to the Alzheimer's Association, 46% of those people over age 85 will have dementia or Alzheimer's and will develop it. It's expected that over 10 million baby boomers will develop Alzheimer's. People who have diminished mental capacity are specifically targets for elder abuse. I had a situation with a client who had been in a serious automobile accident and had limited mental capacity as a result of that accident. She couldn't drive. She could limited access to move around, and there was not much she could do. But unfortunately, she met a boyfriend who decided he was going to take her to buy a car. And he took this woman and bought a car in her name, and she signed for the car, and he drove it. Well, we've discovered that there was a brand new car in her parking lot, and we realized she couldn't drive, but we found out that this boyfriend had purchased the car for her. Obviously, we had the car returned and referred him to legal people. But this happens. As mental capacity diminishes, people become targets for elder abuse. Politeness. You may know your parents, like my parents, if they were members of the greatest generation, they're very polite people. They don't do things that people don't like. They're very careful about doing the right thing, and being polite sometimes puts them in a situation where they can't say no to what's happening to them. The unwillingness to report is very prevalent. Only 1 out of 40 people who are subject to elder abuse actually end up reporting it. So there's a number of situations where people have been handled with elder abuse but do not report it to the authorities because for some reason they're ashamed to report it, that they've been taken advantage of, that someone's taken advantage of them, and they don't want people to know that, so they keep it a secret. Last is elder isolation. 1 in 4 adults in this country lives alone. And that's particularly difficult for older people, because if they live alone, they're much more susceptible to a number of these situations. And unfortunately, they're taken advantage of very often. Their children may be halfway across the country, and they're alone in their home, and they get calls from various people who ask them for various things, and they're taken advantage of. So the fact that your parents or my parents might be isolated and on their own makes them a target. And there are certain recent regulations that have occurred that are affecting us as financial advisors to help us deal with this situation. First of these is what's called the FINRA Rule 2165. This is a rule established by FINRA, which oversees financial advisors associated with a broker-dealer. And if you are a registered representative, you are with a broker-dealer and you are subject to FINRA Rule 2165. Well, according to FINRA Rule 2165, you as a financial advisor can be protected if you choose not to distribute funds to a client if you feel that there is some financial exploitation involved. You can delay sending them the check for 15 days and then extend that for another 10 days while you're reviewing the situation to see if in fact there was some exploitation involved. This is a new rule that came out just this year for financial advisors covered under FINRA. The one condition is that your firm or a firm that's hired by your firm has to provide you with training as to how to handle and recognize financial exploitation. I've been looking for those firms that provide this type of training. I've contacted the government and a number of organizations to determine where to find the training. The rule stipulates that you are required to have training, but to my knowledge, I don't know of anyone that's providing it. If you're interested in finding if your firm can be able to provide this type of training, send me an email at bob@giftofcommunication.com, and as I discover and learn about organizations that provide this training, I will pass that on to you. But this is an important part of the rule is you can't get that protection unless you are trained. Another aspect of the FINRA Rule 2165 is something called the trusted contact. Now, under this new situation, you as a financial advisor, when you take on a new client, are requested to ask them for a trusted contact. That's a person that you can identify, that you can contact with information if you feel that that client is losing their mental capacity. And it's part of FINRA's standard application is this trusted contact. Now, FINRA says you don't have to get the information from them. They don't have to give you the names, but you need to ask for it. And I think this is an important part of what we do going forward. And as part of my recommendations, I'll be talking about what you need to do as part of this trusted contact situation. The second new regulation is called the Senior Safe Act of 2017. It was presented by and approved by Congress under the Special Committee on Aging, of which Senator Susan Collins and Senator Claire McCaskill were part of that regulation. And it's again dealing with the issue of elder abuse. Any financial advisor who is affiliated with any bank, financial institution, accounting firm, anyone who provides financial work or financial advice with clients is covered under the Senior Safe Act. What the Senior Safe Act does is, again, protect the person who's covered under the Act from reporting someone that they feel is being taken advantage of with financial exploitation. Because in the past, and in many cases in the past, when you refer someone to services providing some review of a person's situation to see if they've been exploited, sometimes the family will turn around and sue you as a financial advisor for doing that. But under this act, you are protected from lawsuits if you are covered under the act. Again, one proviso: you need to be trained, and you need to be trained in order to understand, to identify exploitation and how to handle it yourself. So this is another situation where financial advisors are going to need training to be able to be protected from the law. And I've been doing research on both of these and have not found any services that provide training. And again, if you are interested in finding training available to you so that you will be protected if you refer someone to be taken care of regarding exploitation, please contact me at my email address, bob@giftofcommunication.com. But both these regulations are steps in the right direction to protect us as financial advisors from those situations so that we can make referrals for our clients. So how do we protect our clients? How do we protect our elders in this situation? How do we protect them from financial abuse? Well, the first thing is to identify unusual activity. And that includes, has your client found new friends? Are there new people who are spending time with your client? As I mentioned, what happened to one of my clients, they found a new friend. And are those new friends starting to appear on your client's bank accounts? Are they establishing joint accounts with that person? Has that happened? Secondly, have your clients made large withdrawals from their accounts recently? Unusually large withdrawals that they haven't done. I had a client who was a retired physician that suddenly started to make significant withdrawals from his retirement account over a period of time. And we had to do some research to determine what actually had happened. And it's quite a long story as to how it evolved, but we discovered that he was being taken advantage of by a family member, and his mental capacity was beginning to diminish. And he also thought he had won the lottery. So it was a very, very difficult situation. Change in durable power. Now, I mentioned to you already that the durable power of attorney is an important document that gives the person the authority to act on behalf of someone in all their financial activities. That is very, very powerful. And if there's a change, if someone has changed who they name as a durable power, that has a significant impact on their financial situation. So has your client made any changes in that durable power? Another situation is if there's been increased interest from a family member in your client. I had a situation where a husband and wife who lived here in Massachusetts, and they hadn't heard from their daughter in 20 years, who lived in Florida, and suddenly the wife started to show diminished capacity in early stages of Alzheimer's. And after 20 years, the daughter showed up, quote unquote, to take advantage of mom or to help mom. And it was clear that she was there to find out how she could take advantage of her financially. These are a few of the situations that occur, but there are many others. One of the things I've learned about recently is a service called EverSafe. And I just discovered it recently. It's It's a website, eversafe.com, that allows you to keep track of all your financial accounts and any unusual activity that occurs in your accounts. For financial advisors, we can obtain an EverSafe account for 1 year for free, and we can refer our clients to it for a 20% discount, and we keep track of all of our clients. So it analyzes all your bank, investment, retirement, and credit card accounts every day and identifies any erratic transactions. Any suspicious activity or is alerted to you by email or text or however you wanted it to be received, and it keeps track of all your activity in all your accounts. So it's a very good service, and I think it's especially valuable service for your aging clients. And those clients who are over 65 receive a significant discount for having the EverSafe program. And I'd suggest you look at it, and if you'd like more information on how you can get a free EverSafe account, again, send me an email at bob@giftofcommunication.com, and I'll send you the link to EverSafe to become a free member of EverSafe, and then you can start to include your clients. So these are the types of situations that we need to be observant of and need to take advantage of. Now also, you need to make sure that all your clients' legal documents are complete and up to date. And there's some basic legal documents, and I've already mentioned one of them. But certainly, does your client have an up-to-date will? Do they have a will that's approved in the state that they live in? Many of our clients have moved from one location to another, and they move from one state to another, and they may not have the appropriate will for the state that they're in. So it's certainly valuable to know, is your will current, and who is the executor? And again, the executor or executrix is the person that will carry out the conditions of the will for your client. Does your client know who that person is? And is that person still alive? There are unfortunately situations where someone is named as the executor who is no longer alive, and that happens occasionally. But your client needs to review who those people are, and their family needs to know who those people are who have that authority to carry out the conditions in their will. And if they make changes to your will, that's certainly an alarm that you should pay attention to. Why are they making changes, and who are they changing in their wills as they get older? Secondly, we talked about the durable power of attorney, and again, that is a critical person. Now, I don't suggest that you name two people to have that durable power. Let's say you are a widow and you have 3 children. I'd suggest that you not have the durable power with 2 children, because what happens eventually is that they end up arguing about what should happen with your finances. You should have one of them be the durable power of attorney holder and another be the successor. So if that first person is not available, the second person is the successor. And you want to name that child or that family member that you trust totally to have that power. Healthcare proxy is critically important for each of us, because if we are ever in a situation where we're not able to make healthcare decisions for ourselves, we need to identify someone who has that healthcare proxy. We need someone to step in to acknowledge what needs to be done if we need healthcare. I had a situation with a very good friend of mine who unfortunately had a severe stroke, and I was standing with his wife in the waiting room while he was in intensive care, and the neurosurgeon came up to her and said to her very clearly, "You have to make a decision. We have to make a decision in 5 minutes whether we're going to operate on your husband or not. If we don't operate, he will surely die. But if we do operate, he may end up being a vegetable. So what option do you choose? What do you want to do?" So as his healthcare proxy, his wife had to make a very, very difficult decision. And all the time, if you are in the position of being a healthcare proxy, it's an important position, and you need to understand what your client wishes, what they want through a living will, what they want to happen if they are in serious physical situation. One of the things that I recommend to people is that they utilize a form called the 5 Wishes, which they can purchase for a very insignificant amount. That gives you the opportunity to list out in much detail how you want to be taken care of if you're extremely ill. It's called the 5 Wishes, and it's excellent, and it's available, and it's provided in 42 states as a legal document for a healthcare proxy if it's signed with a witness, but with a witness. I'd suggest that each of you get the 5 Wishes and review it and sign it for yourself so that you understand your own situation. We certainly need to know our own situation first before we can recommend that anyone else make end-of-life plans. But it's a very valuable exercise to do that. The third is the HIPAA form. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had a parent or a family member in the hospital and you wanted to get information about their health situation. If you go to the desk and ask, I'd like to know how my mother's doing, the first thing they're going to ask you is, are you on the HIPAA form? Have you signed the HIPAA form? Can we release healthcare information to you? And if you're not on the HIPAA form, they can't release that information to you. So that's very important that you find out if you have a HIPAA form and you've signed it, especially for your parents and your own family members. The last important legal document are what we call insurance or annuity contract beneficiaries. If you have any life insurance or disability insurance, or if you have an annuity, you have a named beneficiary or multiple beneficiaries. These beneficiaries can be changed at any time, but you need to have available the document that defines who the beneficiary is. Because if and when you pass away, that information needs to go back to the insurance company or the annuity company. And you need to name primary beneficiaries and contingent beneficiaries, because if the primary beneficiary is not alive, the contingent beneficiary will be there. And it's important to identify and notify those people who are beneficiaries. I discovered last year when I watched a 60 Minutes presentation on television that there are a number of insurance companies who know that a person has died but have not paid out death proceeds to family members because those family members were not aware that they were the beneficiary and did not request those funds. That happens, and there's millions of dollars being held by insurance companies that beneficiaries don't know that they're the beneficiary of. So make sure that your family members understand that situation. So again, it's important that your clients have all these legal documents in place and in good hands. In that regard, you need to create something I call the life folio to organize your client's affairs. It's a one document. It could be a 3-ring binder. It could be online. It could be in any number of programs. But the key is that it's all in one place. The life folio should provide all that definite required information in one place. And what kind of information needs to be in this document? Again, it could be a 3-ring binder. What's the contact information for your client's advisors? How do you get in touch with their CPA, their life insurance agent, their minister, their other people who are close to them? How do you reach them? What's the contact information for those people? Where are the legal documents? Where are their wills? Where are their trusts? Where is their healthcare proxy? Where are those documents? They don't necessarily have to be in the binder, but you need to identify where those documents are for your clients. Thirdly, investment account detail. What are their investment accounts? How are they held? Are they in individual name? Are they in joint name? How are the various accounts held? Where are they? What are the account numbers? And do those accounts have beneficiaries? Specifically for IRAs and pensions, there are beneficiaries that are named as well. Then there's insurance. What type of insurance does your client have? Life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance? What's the information on those various insurance policies? And again, that should all appear in this binder. That should all be in one place. Lastly, and maybe increasingly important and maybe most important, is a listing of usernames and passwords. How many situations have you come in contact with a person who cannot identify what their username and password is for an account? I was just talking with my wife a few days ago who mentioned that a friend of hers, her husband was a doctor and he had handled all their financial affairs. She really had nothing to do with their financial affairs. And he passed away about 3 months ago. And she has no idea where his investments are, what his usernames are, and what his passwords are. And she's at a loss to discover what that information is. She's contacted her children and asked them to help. And just imagine when she calls Fidelity and says, I'm the wife of so-and-so, and I don't have access to my husband's account, and I don't know his password, but can you help me? As you can see, they're not going to help you. They're not going to be able to provide that information to you. So you need to have a way to keep track of those usernames and passwords. Again, this document, this binder, is a great place to keep it, or you can keep it online. I use a program called Keeper, and Keeper allows me to keep track of all my usernames and passwords on a daily basis in one place, and I can change them as I need to. But that's probably an increasingly important area, because digital assets, if you think about it, we have an increasing number of digital assets. How many have you ever taken a look to see how many books that you have in Kindle, if you use Kindle, or how many albums you have in iTunes? Those are increasing in value and in number. There's more and more of them all the time. And there's no provision in your will in normal circumstances for the passing of digital assets. So this place in this document is a place that you can identify who you want to be the beneficiary of your digital assets. I mentioned a website there, lifefoliosystem.com. Again, if you go to lifefoliosystem.com, you can download a free questionnaire that I've created, a 36-page questionnaire that covers all these areas and many others. Everything that your client needs to know about their life is in the LifeFolio system, and you can download that. It's a 36-page document. You can download that from that website for free. One of the most powerful things that I ever did was to learn to use family meetings with my clients. And it was particularly important for a client of mine who I had been working with for maybe 20 years, who was a physician who was highly regarded in the community, and I was managing his investments for a number of years. But suddenly I started to get phone calls from him asking me if he could speak to his accountant. And he would call me again and again and again asking to speak to his accountant. And it was clear that he was beginning to lose his mental capacity. So as a result, the only thing that I thought we could do, and the only thing that would be helpful, was to get him together with his family. I didn't have the authority just to call his family and tell them that I thought he was slipping, because I didn't have that client advocate form or the trusted advocate form. But I suggested that we have a family meeting. And we met together with his wife and his children from a previous marriage, and discussed their financial situation. It became increasingly evident in the meeting that he was slipping mentally. When asked how he was going to handle his financial situation as part of the meeting with all these people, he responded, well, really all I need to take care of is to get my cat to Florida. And it was clear at that point that he was no longer able to handle his financial affairs. But in many cases, this family meeting is the first time that children have really got an up-to-date situation of their parents and where they stand and what's going on. And especially if they're starting to have difficulties managing their finances, it's important for the children to get together with their parents to talk about these situations. And what are the things that need to be part of this family meeting? Well, first, I think one of the most important parts is to identify the adult child. That's what I call the alpha child. That's the child that's the family champion, that all the other children look to for advice, that mom and dad can trust, that mom and dad can discuss things with, and that are very willing to help and have got the respect of everyone else in the family. The alpha child is the person who can help you bring together all their siblings with their mother and father to have a meeting of the whole family. And secondly, you need to identify a facilitator, a person who is not part of the family, who can direct what happens during that meeting. And that person needs to be objective and not take sides with one person or another. I suggest strongly that you consider becoming the facilitator in family meetings for your clients. And the reason I say that is that many of us have developed long-term relationships with our clients over the years, but we really don't know their children very well. But becoming the facilitator of the family meeting, you learn to know the entire family. You get to know the adult children as well as you know mom and dad when you can talk about a number of issues that face the family. And as the facilitator, you're looked to as the entire family as the trusted advisor. Just stop and think. How many of your clients do you have a relationship with their adult children? Can you name your 5 best clients, their children, and when was the last time you met with their children? Statistics have shown us that 90% of the assets pass to another advisor when our clients die. I had one advisor that I was speaking to a group in New York City. One advisor told me, the only time I find out a client has died is when I get the ACAT form indicating that the assets are being transferred. And it's really disappointing because I've spent a lot of time working with these clients for many years, and all of a sudden the money is gone, and I have no idea who the children have chosen to be their advisor. So once you identify the alpha child who help you put together the meeting, you talk to each member of the family individually to develop an agenda. What is it that needs to be talked about? What are the issues? Are they financial issues? Are they legacy issues? Are they last end-of-life care issues? What are the things that need to be discussed? And probably this family meeting is the first time that the family has sat down and talked about important issues. And it's especially important to families to do this if one or more of the members is starting to lose their mental capacity. You want to make sure that you understand what they want and what they need while they're still mentally healthy. So you create that agenda and you have the family meeting. Sometimes these meetings can occur in just a few hours. I did one family meeting that was 2.5 days, but by the end of that meeting, the family had developed an entire plan to how to take care of their parents going forward. It was very successful. Once you have the family meeting, then you follow up with follow-up procedures to continue to develop what's happened from the family meeting. And I have something called the family meeting checklist that you can utilize to get a detail of what needs to happen in the family meeting. But it is an extremely valuable resource for you that can help you with developing a relationship with the entire family and making sure that the adult children know what their parents' situation is. As I mentioned to you, oftentimes they really don't know what their situation is with their adult parents and how and what situation they are in and what their health circumstances are, especially in an area like Cape Cod where I live, where mom and dad may be out here on the Cape and their children are all over the country. The children don't get together with their parents very often. And when they do get together, it's very light. They're talking about grandchildren, they're talking about sports, their jobs, but never really getting into any critical issues. So the family meeting is the best way for the family to get together and talk about these critical issues. Another thing, and I've mentioned this as part of the FINRA requirements, is to identify a client advocate. And this is a sample form that you can utilize in your practice. And I suggest with every new client, you identify a client advocate or what FINRA calls a trusted contact. This is a person that you can look to if that client is starting to show diminished capacity. And it says, I authorize my advisor to contact my client advocate at any time in the future to provide him or her with financial updates and send him or her statements summarizing my financial accounts. I also authorize my client advocate to accompany me to all future meetings with my financial advisor. You can see where this will become important if a client starts to lose their mental capacity and they're in a meeting with you as their advisor and you start to make recommendations to them. They may agree with you or they may disagree with you, but if you go forward with those recommendations and then 3 months later they say to you, well, I didn't agree to do that. I lost money here. Why are we doing that? What happened? So this is an important document that allows someone else to be in that meeting with you, to be there to observe what's happening, that can be an observer in the situation so that they're taken care of and everyone understands what's happening. I call it a client advocate. The FINRA calls it a trusted contact, but it's a very important part of programs as clients get older and what they need as they get older. And you can simply copy this form and use it in your own practice. Sometimes you'll find clients are no longer able to manage their own personal finances. There are a number of people out there today who are available to provide money management for them. Simply pay their bills and keep track of their checking and bank accounts for them. I know there's a few people in my area here on Cape Cod who do just that. If your client needs help managing their finances and if their children are not readily available, a professional money management situation can be relatively inexpensive and provide them with money management at reasonable cost. You can be a person who's available and the money manager can send you any of the statements so that you can keep track of what's happening with your client and what's going on, but you know that they're well taken care of. But I think professional money management in many situations works well. And in conjunction with that, have the EverSafe program to oversee everything that happens so that anything out of the ordinary happens. The EverSafe program is available to keep track of any unusual steps or things that happen in the account. Lastly, if you feel that there is definitely elder abuse going on in your client's account, you need to become aware of protective services in your state. Each state has Elder Protective Services Department that's available for people to make claims to if they feel that someone's being taken advantage of. Those people who are in the healthcare profession, who are healthcare providers, are required to make those referrals if they discover that there is some abuses going on, or if they feel there's some abuses going on within the family. They are required to do that. You as a financial advisor are not required to do that. You can make anonymous referrals, or if you are covered under the Senior Safe Act and you received training, you can go to the Protective Services and make a complaint to Protective Services and be protected yourself from lawsuit. But you need to take advantage of those situations if you're a financial advisor and you see something happening to your client, because you personally may not be able to control it or may not be able to do anything about it. But as a financial advisor, you feel responsible to report that. So Protective Services in your state is the organization to get hold of. So look on the internet to find out who provides protective services in your town, in your state, in your community. Contact them and find out what their provisions are and how to work with them. That is the last resort that you have to protect your clients. So I'd like to mention 3 things I'd like you to suggest that you do. First, take advantage of the form that I utilize, the client advocate form, and request that each new client that you have provide you with a trusted contact. This may not seem important when you first take on a client, but at some date in the future, if you feel that they're having difficulties, you've got that person that you can contact, that you can work with. The trusted contact will be a very valuable advocate to help you. So request that each new client sign this trusted contact form. Secondly, update your own LifeFolio. Is all your financial information all collected in one place? If you had a family emergency tomorrow, would your family be able to gather together all that information that they need to know to take care of you? And again, you can download the lifefoliosystem.com and fill that out for yourself and your own family. Thirdly, plan and hold a family meeting with one of your clients. I guarantee you, you will find it to be a very powerful experience. I have found that in the many families that I worked with, the family meeting was a life-changing experience for the entire family. They felt that they now were speaking on a level that they had never spoken on before, and they were talking about things that were very important. Your older clients have a lot of things that they want to share with their family, and they're not sure how to do that, and they're not sure where to start and how to present those ideas to their family. But by you helping support them, by creating a family meeting, you've given them the situation that they can utilize to present that information to their family. And it provides a peace of mind to our older clients that they never had before. So take these 3 steps. Use a trusted contact form with all your new clients, update your own LifeFolio, and hold your first family meeting with one of your clients. And with that, I'll conclude and I'll pass it back to Betty to see if we have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking about, it's just such a shame that we even have to talk about these things. And it just seems like this has exploded over the last 10 years.
Right. Exactly. Right. And it's continuing to expand. It's going to get worse because, again, there are more and more of us who are retiring, and people are living a lot longer than their children, than their parents lived. So they're going to be more and more susceptible to these things in the future. It's going to become an increasing problem for everyone.
It just seems like it's basically, you know, the identity theft. We just got to, the whole, we just have to get our defenses up, and that's just got to be part of the process. You know, you build your armor, you know, and oh my goodness.
That's why I thought the discovering this EverSafe program is a way to automate your material, so it's automatically reported to you if there's anything that's erratic in any of your transactions, so that you don't have to be on top of it every single day. And for a very insignificant amount, you can provide the service for yourself. And so I'm going to try it out and see if it works for me. But I think it's something that everyone needs to take a look at, is that how do they protect themselves and protect their clients if there is some type of financial abuse.
You mentioned 5 Wishes, and we are actually going to have Paul Malley, who is the president of Aging with Dignity, who they take care of 5 Wishes, you know, advanced care planning. They're going to be our speaker in December. So everybody, please make sure you tune in for that, because that'll give you some additional tools as well.
I would suggest that everyone get a copy of the 5 Wishes from Aging with Dignity and fill it out for yourself. And if you want your clients to fill it out, you fill it out for yourself and then share it with your clients and say, this is what I've done. And I suggest that you might want to do the same thing yourself. But it's an eye-opener to fill it out your first time for yourself, to answer those questions about how you want to be taken care of if you're not doing well. It's very eye-opening. It's a real learning experience. But they're doing great work. And they're really doing wonderful things.
So let me throw this out to you. I don't know if this is a correct assumption, but there are people that don't want to think about end of life, right? And so they won't do the will. They won't give their spouse the information about their passwords and all the other, and their investments and all that stuff, because they don't want to think about it.
Right. Well, that happens all the time. And if you'll then talk to their families once they've passed away, you'll find out that as a result, there was a lot of discord and anger and confusion in the family. So those people will say, well, I'll just let my kids figure it out, are those people who are destined to create a huge problem and huge issues for their family. If you don't want to face it yourself, your children are going to, believe me, and I've seen it so many times, when families don't do these things, it results in a lot of discomfort and anger and confusion in the family when people start to try to work it out as to what's going to happen. Especially is the worst case is oftentimes real estate. Again, we live here on the Cape, where there's a lot of people who have vacation homes that have appreciated in value significantly. And if they just say, well, kids, you kids will figure it out. You'll figure out what to do with our property. And the property could be worth $1 million or more. And one of them is going to say, let's sell it tomorrow. I can't afford it. Another one will say, well, let's keep it in the family. We've had it in the family forever. And they'll battle. And one of my cousins, her husband, has spent 9 years within the family struggling over who gets what real estate, and that happens all the time. All the time.
Hey, you know, we have several attendees on this webinar and on the recordings work for state retirement systems, and I know you'll be speaking for NPEA, which is the National Pension Education Association, at their October conference. So, you know, they don't manage accounts, right? And they have their pension systems. Or they may be combined with a 457 or a 403B or other types of defined contribution accounts. So, what would you recommend in terms of education that they could offer? So, obviously, you know, back on your takeaway slide, you know, maybe taking that trusted contact form, you know, and making a version of that available for employees to download.
For every employee that your the person works with those organizations or companies that they work with, one of the things that they can provide is that trusted contact form for everyone who has a pension with them. So that's something that they can recommend and offer to their clients, that it become a normal part of people signing up for their pension distributions as to who that trusted contact is going to be. So that becomes part of their overall plan. And also the idea, I think, to look at the EverSafe program as a way that they can, for many of their clients, keep track of their distributions and what happens, and if there's any erratic situations, what to do. But I think each one of us, and it doesn't matter if we have clients or not, we have to look at our own situations as well in our own families. Every time I speak to a group of financial advisors, inevitably people will come up to me after the meeting and talk about their own situation. It's not always about their clients, it's about themselves and dealing with their own families and the things that they've had to deal with in their families that they need to take care of. So as advisors, we have two jobs. We have the job of taking care of our clients and whoever we work with, but also taking care of our own families and whatever our own family has to face. It's very important.
Well, and once you do that, then you've experienced it, and you know you can be a better advocate and more effective of helping people get it done themselves. So, yeah.
And you'll have peace of mind for your own situation. As inevitably, unfortunately, I remember so many times when I talk to a client and they respond to me, if something happens to me, and I'd say, well, you may know something that I don't know, but we're not talking about if. We're talking about when.
Yeah.
You need to face these situations now because you never know when. And it's best to take care of your situation and have peace of mind today rather than wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, very well. Very good. Well, thank you, Bob, so much for your time today. Sure. And it was just very insightful. And again, it's a shame we even have to talk about this stuff, but we do. And
it's part of life. It's
part of life. And it's amazing how times have changed. So, and Bob, if you could forward it to that last slide there, please. I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I want to remind you that we've got an evaluation after the program's done and that your CE will come in an email that confirms your attendance. Our upcoming programs on Monday, September 24th next week, and then the following week with so on Medicare and the Maximizing Your Client Social Security. Just a reminder, we're doing these weekly rebroadcasts so that you can earn CE without having to take quizzes. And also a reminder that in December we will have Paul Malley with Aging with Dignity as a speaker as well. So thank you, everyone. That's all for this session for today. Bob, myself, and our team here at the Retirement Resource Center, thank you for participating. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
I really enjoyed it, Betty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob. You're very welcome. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.